Good afternoon YouTube. I'm back out here doing the same walk I did a few weeks ago, and now it's the 21st of April, so we're going to see how these trees are doing. First up is this big old elder. It's got the same soft cork-like bark that we saw before, and all the buds have opened now, so you can see the hairs sort of opposite leaves there. So there's always two leaves opposite each other, and they have serrated edges. So all the elder's out at the moment, and it's amazing that last time I was here was about 3 weeks ago, and it was quite cold. I was wearing a fleece and a jacket. It was very windy, and today it's 24 degrees. All the buds have opened, and just in a matter of 3 weeks, it's pretty amazing. Here's one we didn't look at last time. We've got a cherry. So cherry bark has these sort of horizontal lenticels, they're called, running across, similar to silver birch, but the bark is more sort of a reddish colour. Keep going. Hi. Cool. So here's a field maple. Field maples seem to be, some of them are budding a bit later than the elder, but these have just opened buds. So they've got the palm-like leaf, so they call them palmate leaves, so they look like a palm. Similar to sycamore, but these leaves will always be a lot smaller. So sycamore, in fact there's a sycamore next door. Here's a sycamore. So even though these leaves will get bigger than this, a field maple leaf will never be as big as a sycamore. It won't get even that big. And sycamore leaves can get a lot bigger than that. They can be easily the size of my whole hand. So that's your sycamore there. Again, another palmate leaf. It will have winged seeds, helicopter seeds, later in the year. And the field maple, last time I said it was the only tree that could have a similar confusing bark to elder. It's very fissured and wrinkled, and sometimes it can be soft and squidgy like cork. This one isn't really, it's quite hard, but that is the field maple bark. But elder is much more squidgy and cork-like. Here's some bigger sycamore leaves. See that? Sycamore there with the 5 points. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. So here's a large ash. The leaves haven't opened yet, so it's still bare. They seem to be opening a bit later as well. All the elders come out, but a lot of the ash hasn't yet. But you would see those jet black buds that I pointed out last time. They would be starting to open up and let the leaves come out. I have seen some ash leaves out, so I'll point them out if I see them. Some younger ash here. Starting to open, but not properly. What's this? We got hawthorn out. I think that's hawthorn. Have a look. Hawthorn. I didn't really stop at these trees last time, but that's hawthorn there. Could be confused at this stage for field maple, but these leaves always stay this big. So you've got hawthorn being the smallest, sort of the size of my thumb. Field maple can get a bit bigger, and then sycamore's the really big ones. And these, hawthorn has red berries in the late summer, early autumn. They're edible. The leaves are edible actually. They're quite nice. They're one of my favourite leaves to eat. They're quite plain, neutral, so it is easy to eat big handfuls of them actually. The wood's very strong. So the Latin for hawthorn, Crataegus monogyna. So Crataegus comes from the Greek krakos, meaning strength, so it's a strong wood. You've got that mythical sea monster called the kraken. That also comes from the same root, krakos, meaning strong. So I'm really interested in the sort of the origin of these words, and there's an elder there, and what the names mean. So here's an elder. So you got those spots on the bark, and then the main older stem is the cork-like bark, and then you'll have the pith. Yeah, you can see it there. If I snap that, soft pith inside the middle. Let's find a better example. See that? It's a really soft pith in the centre there that you can just pop out. Yeah, but these leaves are quite distinctive, I think, with the serrated edges. Ash has pairs of leaves as well, but they're a lot thinner. They're quite different. I'll show you some ash when I get to it. So remember I showed you last time the dogwood with the red stems? So that's all in leaf now. And it has quite distinctive leaves. Because if you gently break it, the veins stay connected. And it just hangs down from its veins like that. So there's quite a few different types of dogwood, but they all have that neat trick. We can gently break that leaf apart and you'll see the veins will stay connected between the two halves of the leaf. So that can help you easily ID the dogwood. All the different types of dogwoods. This is the red dogwood with the red stems. Red osier dogwood. It just hovering there. Oh, and remember the mud last time down here. Now it's all dried up. It's only 3 weeks ago. Okay, so we're going to head back up to that lime grove up there. So here we are back at the lime grove, and last time I showed you these lime buds which I said were similar to boxing gloves, and now they've burst open. You can see there that red bud which has actually grown larger and then split open and will then fall off onto the floor, revealing these lime leaves which are due to get a lot bigger than this. You can see they're heart shaped, so if I take one off, still in the process of unfurling, so it's a bit crinkled up. It's a heart-shaped leaf, so it's got that divot where the stalk comes out and then a point at the bottom, serrated edges. It has little tufts of hair on the underside where the vein axes meet each other. See those white dots? They're tufts of hair, and this leaf will grow quite a bit bigger than this, double in size. And these are edible as well when they're young. So hawthorns are edible all the time. Lime and beech are edible when they're young. So really, first few weeks of spring. It's neutral. Doesn't have a very strong taste. Good for a salad. Here's some bigger lime leaves. As you can see, there's the bud casing that's popped open. You've got that nice heart-shaped leaf there. And the tufts of fur on the underside. Try a couple more. So here's last time where we saw some dead elder sticks with jelly ear fungus on. So I expect the fungus will still be there, but it will be dried out because of the sun. And there it is. So that's the jelly ear fungus. And like I said last time, you can harvest that. And you can rehydrate it and boil it and eat it when it's cooked. Or you can sort of grind it, chop it up, grind it up and put it into boiling water to make a stock. It's not very jelly ear like at the moment, it's more like a crispy ear. Oh no, that's not what I thought it was. I don't know what that is. Got more limes. Look at that, that is a very young lime tree there. Couple of feet tall, and that's still in bud. And then here you've got some shoots off the main trunk of the lime tree. Seems to have more like vertical lenticels rather than the cherry and silver birch, which have those horizontal lenticels. And there's ash. Oh look, there's an ash in leaf. So last time I talked about these young ash poles here, which are very fast growing. They grow straight up, Fraxinus excelsior, the Latin name excelsior meaning ever upwards. And here I pointed out the black buds, so there's one which looks like it's damaged and not going to open. But these jet black buds are beginning to open on this one. Very, very, very early days. They've probably opened literally in the last couple of days. So it's these baby leaves. If I can show you the pairs. I think there you can just about see the opposite pairings. So you've got 2 and 2, 2 and 2, opposite pairs. Rather than single leaves, which you would find on the lime or the beech, for example. I'm also going to keep an eye out today for some crampball fungus, which is a type of fungus used in fire lighting. And I know that it grows around here on dead ash trees and I think dead beech maybe. I know I've seen it on something else around here. It's a black fungus that looks like charcoal. And what I try and do is keep my eyes open for any dead sort of branches. Normally horizontal sort of branches up off the ground, and I normally spot some that way. Here's that lone silver birch we spotted last time, so I'm going to go in for a closer look now. Although it looks like it's dead because there's nothing sprouting, there's no branches or leaves at all. But I just wanted to show you the bark a bit more closely. So obviously it's white or silver. And it's got these horizontal lenticels in it, so it's pretty easy to spot. When I was learning, I did confuse cherry initially. I thought it might be because there is a Chinese red bark birch, but you wouldn't really see it here in the UK. So cherry is the one I showed you at the start. It has horizontal lenticels, slightly shiny bark. The leaves are completely different, of course, but I can't show you the leaves on this one. But the branches tend to droop down, and it has very small sort of heart-shaped leaves that look similar to the lime. And down here on the floor there's stingy nettles, which I'm going to be making cordage out of later in the year. And then next to those we have cleavers, or goosegrass, which are sticky. And this is the dried stems of this is what I used in my last video, where I made a friction fire using a fire bow. My tinder bundle was made of goosegrass, but it's more the tall goosegrass where it grows up fences and at the sort of hedgerows and stuff like that, and it dries out in the winter and it looks more like that. And you can collect that up and it makes really, really good tinder bundles. There are a few young lime trees shooting up as well. So this is a stump that's been cut down of a lime, and it's actually growing new shoots, which is nice to see. And here's the clematis, which I sawed down last time I was here a few weeks ago. So clematis, this vine, this climbing plant here, with this very fibrous outer bark, and this is a dead one. And I sawed this section off here last time and used it to make a hearth board for my friction fire. Wow, look at that clematis. Absolutely covered in clematis. There's an amazing amount of resources out here if you can get your eye in. And I'm still learning. I only know probably half of what's out here, particularly on the floor. There's a lot of small plants which I can't yet identify. Here's the hazel, which we identified last time. Buds are opening now. There you go. Again, it's a very immature leaf that's going to get bigger than that. But you'll see when they're mature, below every leaf there's another bud. Elliptical shape. Serrated edge. They're fuzzy at the moment, but that fuzz will wear off once they get a bit more mature. And then I think last time I was here I went up and showed you, I think it was this one. I mean, I think I just walked through here last time and these branches have just grown over. But this was the one I speculated to be a sycamore. And it is a lot harder in the winter. I mean, the leaves are the key ID feature, but we can now clearly see that it is a sycamore. You've got these large palmate leaves. It's really, really obvious to identify. The only thing you might confuse it with if you're in a city is a plane tree, which has similar very large palmate leaves, but it has spiky fruit on it and sort of camouflage plates which peel off, and it's a city tree. You'll definitely see it lining roads and avenues in the inner city, but you won't really see it much out here in the country. But that one's sycamore, and here's the elder. The elder with the pairs of leaves. So we've come to a section that has more beech trees in it now. And remember last time I showed you the spiky buds of the beech tree. There's one that's just about to open. They're quite pointed and spiky. Now those buds are just little husks that are falling off. These brown husks where they've opened now. And you can see the beech leaf. Again, it's got that fuzz on it, but those hairs will fall off when the leaf matures. But you've got a smooth margin, meaning no serrations to the leaf. It is wavy, so it sort of undulates up and down, but it's not toothed. And these are another good one to eat. So just trying to try. These have a bit more flavour to them actually. Again, you can eat them in this young state. So for the first few weeks of spring, when they're really thin, flexible, translucent, they almost feel like satin. Well, that's got a real sort of chlorophyll, a real plant-like taste to it now that I'm chewing down on it. Much stronger than the lime I just had, or the hawthorn. It's not unpleasant, it's actually quite refreshing. Later in the year, the leaves won't do you any harm to eat, but they'll just get quite thick and tough and leathery. They're not really very nice. Here's another young beech. See the parallel veins as well. So that each vein is a straight line, and the vein below it is the same distance all the way along, so they're parallel. So when they're really flexible like that, that's when they're good to eat. So again, the Latin for beech, Fagus sylvatica. So fagus meaning edible, sylvatica meaning of the forest. And I'm moving a bit quicker than I was last time, just because I need to get back today, but this is where my camera went on the blink last time, so hopefully I can cover some more of the bits I missed. There's your holly. That hasn't changed, that's an evergreen. So that's going to look like that continuously. So up on this bank I've seen some nice ivy up there that I'm going to show you, where someone's cut it off. And there's also quite a lot of deadwood, which I'm going to have a hunt for some cramp ball fungus. So I'm going to haul myself up here, hopefully not fall over. There's a nice bit of flint here as well, which you can use with a flint and steel to make sparks, or iron pyrite rock. So here's the ivy. See where someone's sawn that off to kill it, because it will eventually strangle the tree and kill the tree. But that is beautiful ivy to make a hearthboard. So in my video I used clematis for the hearthboard for my fire bow, friction fire. This is another really good one. So there's just so much here. In fact, that one there is bigger than my upper arm, that piece. But yeah, I don't really have time today, but what I would do is saw this up into sections and take it home and split it. So I want to check out some of this deadwood. Have a look up here. It's choked in ivy though. I found the cramp ball doesn't really grow where the ivy grows. There's another small deadwood up here. There's a hawthorn. So that's, the leaves don't get that much bigger than that. So this is one of the smaller leaves. Make sure you can see that. This is edible all year, and it has berries, red berries, with a single large seed in them. So in the Latin Cretaceous monogyna, the monogyna means single seed. And these are the thorns from the name hawthorn. So that one is over an inch long. There's one there that's a couple of inches long, and you can use those. I once used it when I went minimalist camping, and instead of a sleeping bag I wrapped myself up in 2 wool blankets. And I used a thorn as a pin, really, to pin the 2 wool blankets together. And you can get thorns that are really nice. They're sort of much longer and thinner than that, and quite strong. Let's have another hunt for some deadwood. I'm looking for black cramp ball fungus that looks like charcoal. Lumps of charcoal. Can't see it here. well rotten. This is maybe a bit too dead. Can't see it there. Here's some yew. So the yew again is an evergreen. So this hasn't just opened, it's all, the leaves have always been here. Quite distinctive, very flat leaves. They're not round like a needle, a pine needle. Very dark green, lighter, or sort of, well, actually that's almost darker, but sometimes it's lighter underneath. Quite soft, not spiky. That's a poisonous one, so that's one to avoid eating for sure. Scarp into this murky bit. This is the bark of a yew as well. It's very distinctive. So it's got these red plates that flake off. Really pretty. Swirly patterns of red plates. You can see some yew leaves. The other thing that I mentioned last time is yew tends to branch out quite low. So you see that branch there is only 4 feet off the ground, whereas with pine trees they tend to lose all of their bottom branches. It's all quite rotten. I'm going to move on a bit. I'm going to move on to a different section. Here's one I wanted to show you because it's quite confusing. I believe it's a Norway maple. So if you look at that leaf, very similar to a sycamore, but it's much more spiky and pointed, and it's doubly serrated. So each serration has serrations on it. So it looks like a sycamore, but it's got points on the point. Other than that, very, very similar to sycamore. They're both members of the Acer family. And here's one that I completely didn't notice last time. It's a horse chestnut. And these central leaf veins will each sprout these very large leaves, which kind of, they tend to flop down a bit when they first come out, and then they'll broaden out and get bigger. In the winter it's very easy to identify because it has a massive sticky bud, and that's the base of the bud there, and it's still sticky. So if you touch that you can feel it. It's really sticky. So there's no other tree with a big sticky bud like that, and it is literally the size of a thumb. Horse chestnut. Hippocanestanum, I think it is. Interesting, hippo means horse, and so I was thinking, if hippo means horse, what does hippopotamus mean? It turns out potamus means of the river, so it's Greek for river horse. Again, one of those interesting things about where different words come from. I'm going to keep my eye out for cramp ball fungus up here. Doing a quick scan as I walk. Here's sycamore. Yew. Here's a beech that hasn't come into leaf yet. So it's got this smooth grey bark. Here are the old leaves. Here's the spiky buds. See those pointy spiky buds? The only other thing that's similar to that is hornbeam. But the buds on hornbeam tend to lie close to the branch like this, whereas beech stick up. And the leaves are different as well. So the leaves on beech have a smooth margin, and hornbeam has a serrated margin. But for whatever reason, these buds haven't opened yet. Maybe because it's in the shade. It's a lot more shady in this area. What's this? It looks like a field maple. I think I showed you one of these earlier. Very young field maple. There's another one in the Acer family. So this has very rounded lobes, whereas the sycamore is pointed and the Norway maple is extremely pointed and jagged. This one's very rounded lobes and deeper as well. You see how they cut in, those lobes cut in almost to the centre of the leaf. Another field maple, and this one has that really wrinkly, and this one's quite, it's not soft, but it's got that, I don't know, I guess softish feel to it. Yeah, sort of like compressed cork feel, like a hard, dense cork pinboard. And there's the young leaves just opening. Here's some young ash trees. Quite a lot of them actually. There's probably 20 just in this small patch. And you can see those black buds I pointed out starting to turn dark green as they open. Here's one that's still black. And here's one that's literally in the process of opening right now. You can see the bud edges there turning from black to dark green, and then they'll open and fall off and the leaves will come out. And there's holly, Ilex aquifolium. And that looks like a cherry. Just trying to see if I can spot any leaves. That's a lime. That's a field maple. I can't see any leaves at all for this one. It might actually be on its way out. Doesn't look too healthy. I think that's a cherry with that peeling reddish brown bark. Oh, and here's a beech that's done really well. Wow, big old leaves come out on there. So here you can see the those brown bud sort of capsules, I guess you could call them, which are just falling off. That's a really nice example of a beech leaf there. The smooth margin, parallel veins, and they're single leaves, they're not in opposite pairs like an ash or an elder. And the smooth greyish brown trunk. So I thought this was worth showing. This is an older lime tree, just because the ones we've seen so far have had smooth bark, and this one it's splitting up and beginning to fissure, which is normal for an older, larger lime tree. You can see the leaves. That's not it. Where is it? That's coming off of something else. There you go. Still got those same leaves to it. Here's a nearer one, heart shaped. Let's try and get that visible for you. There you go. Heart shaped lime leaf. And I found the elusive hornbeam, which I've referenced numerous times. There we go. Hornbeam. Very similar to beech, so the bark looks so similar to beech. It's still smooth and grey, and the leaves look very similar as well, in that they have these parallel leaf veins, but they're serrated. So you see the serrated jagged edges there. So there's more horse chestnuts up here. Much bigger, as you'd expect to find them. They're one of the larger trees that would grow in this area. Yeah, one of the very large trees, along with beech. It would be one of the bigger, more gnarly sort of trees. And you'll get this central flower poking up out of the top, and then around it these large teardrop shaped leaves will hang down, and the leaves will get larger than this as well. It's not an edible, so sweet chestnut is the edible one. This is horse chestnut. We've got some sycamore growing next to it, some young sycamore with those single stalked palmate leaves, very large. And at this stage the sycamore bark is smooth and grey brown, but when it's older it can crack up into plates and look almost camouflage effect, like different shades of green and brown plates to it. Young leaves can have this reddish colour to them as well, and the shoots as well, if I can find any young sort of shoots, they can have a reddish colour to them. And as I mentioned last time, it has this growing pattern where the branches rotate around 90 degrees. So I'll try and find an example of that. Find a good branch. It's busy here by country standards. Getting a few cars going past. We try and find an example of that. Yeah, here's a perfect example. So here you've got your two branches coming out here. So the next set of branches up will be rotated 90 degrees. So rather than my or your left and your right, they're your front and your back. And the next set again will rotate 90 degrees. I want to show you this hedge as well, because it's box tree. Quite common in hedges but rare in the wild. There is an area here in the southeast that has a box plantation, but other than hedges you rarely see it. So it's got these very, very small small leaves. They won't get any bigger than this. This is an evergreen, so the Latin Buxus sempervirens. So Buxus means box, and sempervirens or sempervirens means evergreen, for evergreen. So that's the box tree. It's a very slow growing tree. Right, we're going to cut back onto a footpath again and see if there's anything else of interest. Blackthorn looks completely different to the one I showed you last time, because it's out in blossom now. Really pretty, and you'll see these as you're driving down country roads. You'll see these flashes of white with all this white blossom in the hedgerows. That's the blackthorn. Of course, there are plenty of other white flowers and white blossom out there, but this is a small tree. It's got these thorns, if I find here, super long, super sharp thorns. See that? Over 2 inches long. Again, you can utilise those if you want to pin clothing together, pin blankets together, use them to prick out a splinter, etc. And that will all be laden with sloe berries in the autumn, late autumn. There's a big elder there, so it's got very few leaves on it, but you can, hopefully by now you can immediately identify that bark. Starting to spit with rain now. So I'm going to come back and do, oh, here's cleavers, goosegrass. Oh, this is good, this is useful to see. So we've got the old and the new. So here's the young cleavers that I showed you earlier, the sticky green goosegrass or cleavers, and here's the old ones. This is amazing. I always grab this if I'm walking around about to go camping for the night. Just grab enormous bundles of that. If it's at all damp out, just stick it under your clothing, under your jumper to let it dry out. It's a really, really good tinder material. And you'll get surprising amounts of it if you keep your eye out for that brown colour. It's underneath hedges, growing up fences, even all inside here. It doesn't look like much, but once you start pulling it out, you've got enough to get a fire going. There's brambles here as well, which I'll probably do a video on making cordage from the brambles. I've got some really strong cordage. Last year I made cord from nettle and bramble. The bramble one was actually better, it seemed to me. It seemed stronger. So I'll probably do a video on that at some point. Yeah, so I'm going to come back here in summer and show you the berries and fruits, the leaves at full size, and how the landscape's changed. And then I'll come back in the winter and show you how it looks then. It's attractive in all 4 seasons, I think. And knowing the clues to look out for can help you identify the tree in any season. I just wanted to grab a leaf from this field maple so I can show you all the leaves side by side. A bit high up. I'm going to jump up and grab one and come back. Here's a large hornbeam I found, and I think it's worth pointing out the trunk. So the shape of the hornbeam can help identify it or differentiate it from a beech. It's quite angular. A beech is very rounded, quite smooth. This one you can see, to me it just reminds me of like an anaconda. You've got like these muscular sort of sections poking out, and then if you look up as well, the branches are quite angular. If I get a shot of a beech, I'll post them side by side to compare them, but they tend to like just change direction quite rapidly, and they just, to me, they look quite muscular, almost like, you know, they're a living sort of python-like creature. And here you can see the difference in the leaf between a hornbeam and a beech. Is the serrations, serrated edge there. Looking out for a beech now, but I probably won't see one on this footpath. This is more smaller trees that grow here. Sycamore. So I'm always looking around. There's a hawthorn. Rather than staring at the floor, I'm trying to always see what's around me. There's a hawthorn there. Nice, one of my favourite edible leaves throughout the season. Hornbeam. Well, this is where my camera cut out last time, so I didn't capture any of this for the winter video, or late winter, early spring. Here's a Buxus sempervirens box. So you've got these pairs of teeny tiny leaves, quite glossy, evergreen, still has its leaves in the winter. No thorns, soft. Apparently the wood is good for carving, like the thicker trunk wood, but it's so slow growing. But they used to make decorative items from it. Okay, I've collected a few leaves, so I'll do a little quiz on what's what. Same stuff over and over again, so it's good, I think, when you get to know what's in your area, And you see it repeating over and over again because you have similar terrain, similar soil types, and similar plants will grow there. Here's a rose. I just wanted to show you this rose hip. That will be much more evident later in the summer, those tasty rose hips that you can eat, really high in vitamin C. So down here you've got blackthorn, there's another hornbeam, sycamore. See the same trees over and over and over and over again, which is really good to get your eye in because they do vary somewhat. Some of the ones with smooth bark sometimes have fissured bark. You get the small young varieties, the older varieties. And you can start getting your eye in for the differences. Like this elder, for example, you might not ID that as elder on your first look because most of the elders we've looked at are smaller than this. This is a big one. And you might think, oh, maybe it's a field maple, but then you get in a bit closer and you can see the squidgy bark. There's a jelly ear fungus. There's a vertical shoot with the spots on it. There's the pairs of leaves, and then you've got the pith in the centre. So there's 5 or 6 clues straight away. Look at that jelly ear there, as to what that is. Rain's coming down. Summer rain. Okay, let me nip under this bit of shelter here and show you the leaves I've collected so far. Okay. I just want to grab one more from do that one. It's amazing how your eye tunes in as well, just to the shade of colour like that. I've picked out immediately just through the sort of shape and colour. Cool. Right, let's do a little quiz. That's number 1. These are number 2. And these are number 3. Okay. So what do you think number 1 is? That's a sycamore. So it's quite large, much larger than the other 2. Number 2, what is that? That is a hawthorn. Very deep lobes. So these leaf lobes go almost into the very centre of the leaf. See that? How far that splits down to the centre? They're small. They're lighter green and they're edible, and the bush will have red berries on it. And then number 3, what do you think that is? That's a field maple. These will grow a bit bigger, they're immature at the moment. Maybe that's actually really weirdly shapen. That's more of what a field maple looks like, that one there. But it will grow, that's only the size of my finger. That will double in size, triple in size maybe, but it will never grow as big as the sycamore. See that size difference? So sycamore can have small leaves on it, of course. It can have leaves that size because they're just young leaves, but it will also have leaves twice the size of my hand, whereas a field maple will never have leaves that big. Okay, and then the next 3. So I've got number 1, number 2, and number 3. So what do you think number 1 is? It's a hornbeam. So you've got the parallel leaf margins, but you've also got the serrated edges. Number 2. That's a trick question. It's also a hornbeam. Yeah. So I was just trying to catch you out there. So it's also got those serrated edges there, which a beech wouldn't have. Hazel can be a similar shape to that as well, but the tree structure is completely different. Hazel being those rods, those vertical rods, and hornbeam being more of a muscular, darker colour as well. Hornbeam will also have these seeds that hang down from it that look like hops. They're sort of helicopter seeds as well. And then number 3, that is a lime. It's got that heart shape. You see at the bottom how deeply that indentation goes up into that upside down heart shape. You've got the point at the tip, the serrations. See here you don't have the parallel veins like you do with beech and hornbeam. The veins kind of verge off in slightly different directions and then they split into sub-veins. So it's a completely different vein pattern. Hope that was useful and interesting. And we'll see what we find when we come back in another few weeks' time. Hopefully some edible stuff like hawthorn berries, blackberries, elderflower. Try and collect some of that to make some cordial. But for now, let's just enjoy this summer rain.